Welcome to Beyond the Pulpit, exploring the life and ministry of Walnut Creek Church downtown. Walnut Creek Church exists to glorify God by making authentic disciples of Jesus Christ who love and worship Him in all they do. Well, all right, welcome to Beyond the Pulpit. My name is Derek Wadley, and I'm joined here by Luke Hookey.
Good morning, everyone.
And Dan Rude.
What's up, everybody?
And this last weekend, we jumped into Genesis 24 at church, starting to look at Isaac and Rebecca and their relationship. And we talked about four principles for dating, but kind of three principles to prepare for dating towards the end. And those were walk with Christ, get a job and work hard, and pursue sexual purity. So we thought it'd be a good idea to maybe dig into a few of these a little bit more here this morning.
Yeah, the chapter is the longest chapter. Genesis 24 is the longest single chapter in the book of Genesis, and it is the story of Isaac getting married to Rebecca. And it starts off in verse 1 by saying, Abraham was now old, getting on in years, and the Lord had blessed him in everything. And this is the setup for the chapter. And now we're going to, from this point on, Abraham's going to live for a while, because in chapter 25, he gets remarried and he has a lot of kids and he lives several more decades. 175 years. So I think what's going on in verse 24, or in chapter 24, verse 1, it says, now Abraham was old, getting on in years, and the Lord had blessed him and everything. I think part of this is to set up this concept of this is his dying wish. His dying concern is for his son, Isaac, and whom Isaac will marry. And so we get all these details. And so there's a lot here that can be applied or it could be applied in the area of getting married or dating. I don't think this chapter is designed primarily. When Moses wrote this, he's not thinking, okay, here are the principles that people living in 2020 need to apply for dating. I don't think that's necessarily the primary purpose of the chapter, but I think there are many principles here that can be applied to dating.
It's not generally the key text that a lot of Christian relationship books key into.
It should be, though. I mean, this chapter is so helpful.
Loaded.
It is so helpful. And as I was studying it, I read it once, read it twice, read it 3 times, read it 4 times, read it 5 times, read it 6 times. I just kept kind of going through it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so much here about that can be applied to dating relationships. And there are many other principles in the scriptures that can be applied to dating relationships. So there's a lot that God's word has to say. But I think part of why I wanted to talk about dating from this chapter is because we just have so many young people in the church. So that's young adults, college students, people who have been married and divorced, and they're now single. They're considering, how do I go about getting married? And we have parents with kids that are getting older. And I just thought, I think that's a large reason why I wanted to address this. And I think as a church, we want to keep lifting up the goodness of marriage. that marriage is a good thing. And one trend that's currently in the culture is that people are getting married later and later in life. And, obviously there are 100 different reasons why people are getting married later in life. But there is a delayed adolescence that's taking place. That's obviously not true for everyone.
Right.
Right.
But I think there's this general attitude that I want to go live my life and travel the world and establish my career and do everything that I want to do before I get married. And I think obviously there's a time and a place for that, and every situation is a little bit different. But I think as people get married later and later and later in life, I think what ends up happening is that marriage gets presented as some sort of an obstacle in people's way. Like I can't have the career I want, I can't have the life I want if I'm married, so I got to live it up while I'm single. Totally. And I'm like, no, I don't think that's the way Christians should think. Nope. We should see marriage as a good. It is a good gift from God to humanity. It's a common grace, and I think we want to help our people think about the process of getting married. And I think a good place to jump back into the conversation is those three application points. And the principle that those application points come from is the principle that you want to be the best thing that ever happened to someone. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's the best way to put it or not, but I think that idea is consistent with the scriptures. Like in Proverbs, it talks about how a noble wife is a crown for her husband, and a noble wife is a crown for her husband. But a shameful wife is rottenness in his bones, in his bones. And you're like, oh man, that's crazy. She can be a crown or a cancer, and the same thing applies for the man. Husband, that a husband can be the source of so much blessing or so much pain. And you talk to people, so often much of the pain that they experience in their life, it comes back to husband, wife. Even if you're a kid and your parents divorce, and you're like, oh, the pain that
messes you up.
It really it hurts. It hurts people, and so there are so many downstream consequences for unhealth in marriage. And so I think a humble, in humility, I think the right attitude to have is to say, I want to be the best thing that ever happened to someone. I want to bless their life as much as I possibly can. And so then that's where those application points came up.
It's even like Paul's call to husbands in Ephesians 5 is to love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. It's like that is like a call to the highest good of your wife.
Yeah, die.
To die for her.
Husbands, your job is to die. That's
right.
That's the role that you play in the story, is that you die for your bride. And if you're supposed to die for your bride, then you should live your whole life with that same attitude. And so if you're single, how do you prepare yourself to be the best thing that ever happened to someone? I think I gave those three application points. One, you should walk with God. That's the most important thing, that you learn to walk with God by faith. And then second, it was get a job. Get a job and work hard. Yep. Get a job and work hard. Marriage is really hard work, and you want someone who values working hard, who values laboring and struggling and getting after it. I think that is a glorious characteristic of
that overcomes difficulties, pushes through the hard stuff.
That can smile at difficulty, smile at challenges, and then pursue sexual purity. Now, we wanted to get into that little phrase, pursue sexual purity. So maybe a few things that it doesn't mean. So what doesn't that mean, D, when we say?
One thing it doesn't mean is pursue sexual purity until marriage, like as if purity ends with marriage. And so I think that attitude comes from a variety of different places, but sometimes in the culture, the way in Christian culture, it can be presented as like sex before marriage is like this danger to be avoided. And it's like you're always presented with all these dangers, but instead it's like the call to pursue sexual purity is actually a virtue to chase after because it honors God and his design for us. And so we're trying to
certainly it is a danger.
It is a danger, certainly. But I think if you're focused in a way
just
that
you're
just on the negative and you don't see it for the good that it is, that God has given it to us, it can really mess up your thinking in that area.
Yeah, as we've used before, and many people have used, fire in a fireplace brings great joy into your home. But if you ever had the fire leave your fireplace, which I did when we were younger, it can do a lot of damage. And so I think sex is the same way, obviously, in marriage. It's a great blessing, great joy, as Dan explained this past weekend. Develops permanence within the relationship. And so, but when it's outside of marriage, that's where there is a lot of danger. And I think, to your point, Derek, is that you're like, there's a reality where sometimes we get so focused on the dangerous side of sex with young people or kids or people who aren't married that we forget about actually sharing with them the blessing and the positive aspect about about sex, which actually I think is even more, it creates more protection, because when you actually communicate what sex is for and how God is the one who designed it and has given that to us to be a blessing, to procreate, as you said, for pleasure and for permanence, that actually, it's like, I think that's more reason in the minds of a young person to say, oh, well, that's what I want. And so I don't want to lose that, in a sense, or damage that before marriage. And so I think, much of the culture at times has become so preoccupied with the don't do it, you're going to get an STD, you're going to get someone pregnant, you're going to ruin your life, whatever it might be, which there's a lot of truth in those things.
Right.
But also it's like, no, what is the purpose of sex is really a powerful way to help, I think, maintain, quote, sexual purity prior to being married and even after being married. Honestly, it's
the pursuit of sexual purity before marriage, will only lead into the ability to maintain and continue to pursue sexual purity in marriage.
Certainly, it's a foundation. You're building a foundation, and
you don't want to build your house on the sands.
Yes, yeah, and it gets so tricky because human beings have hormones. Men and women have hormones. They have desires for intimacy, desires for sexual pleasure, and I think that the culture, the current culture that we're in, is constantly bombarding us with graphic sexual images, everywhere you look, TV shows, just on your phone, social media. At the gym, everywhere you're at, sporting events. I mean, it's
everywhere.
You're just bombarded with sexual images all the time. And so what God is calling men to and women to is that you have eyes for your spouse and your spouse alone all the days of your life. That's what that's the standard. And that's the standard because he loves us. It's because he wants our good. He wants us to flourish. He wants us to know him and walk with him. But it's a real challenge. I mean, it is a challenge to pursue sexual purity before you're married and after you're married. I mean, once you get married, it's not like all of the sexual temptation goes away.
It's not time to let your guard
your guard down or anything like that. It's no. It's a lifetime of pursuing Christ, and if you don't buckle up for that ride, I think we can let ourselves relax way too much in marriage or before marriage. I talk to some guys and they're like, "This is just impossible to be sexually pure. It's just impossible."
It's not.
And
it's not,
you
it's
just,
not, by the way.
but it
feels that way.
It can feel that way, and so it's kind of whatever. I like this girl. I don't know.
I intend. I've talked to several guys who it's I intend to marry her.
Yes.
So it's okay.
Yes. And I'm nah, don't do that. Don't do that.
It's a helpful thought, maybe not helpful to you guys, but helpful, I think, thing to think about as Christians. We're always in a spiritual battle, spiritual war, and oftentimes it's whether or not we're recognizing that we're in that. But part of in the sexual purity conversation with dating, Satan is always trying to tempt you to be sexual before you're married. And then the temptation after you're married is to not be sexual. Sexually involved with your wife, and it's to start looking around at other things, other women, other men, whatever. And so I think there is a reality of trying to understand, okay, the temptation prior to marriage is to get you to sleep around, to be sexually promiscuous or immoral with that person, even if you intend to marry them. And then after you're married, then the struggle flips the other way for some people.
Certainly.
And it's so you have to understand what the game, if you will, is. And so that's why you need to put up such heavy guardrails and boundaries prior to being married. But then even in your marriage, you want to be thinking about guardrails and boundaries to protect yourself, to make sure, as you said earlier, that your eyes are for your wife or your husband alone and for no one else. Yeah. And so
the nature,
either way, there's a battle that we have to fight.
And see, the nature, I didn't know this when I was 15 years old. I wish I would have known this when I was 15 years old.
I didn't know much when I was 15 years old.
I know. But the nature of our sexual desires, there is a good and right sexual desire.
That's right.
That comes from God. It needs to be submitted to Christ. There's also these distorted desires for sex that are deep inside of us. And the nature of those distorted desires for sex is that we have sexual desires that that lean or move towards what is forbidden.
Yeah.
And so the book of Proverbs says that stolen water is sweet.
Tastes sweet.
Stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, water isn't sweet.
And bread eaten in secret, I don't get what it's saying. I don't know.
Yeah, so stolen water is sweet. And so what makes stolen water sweet? It's that it's forbidden. And that's the illustration that's used in Proverbs to talk about sex. It's that, so to go along with what you're saying, there's something about the forbidden nature of messing around with someone sexually that you're not married to that makes it more appealing.
Totally.
And then, but once you're married, there's something about the other way, the forbidden nature of messing around sexually, either in your heart or your mind, with someone besides your spouse, that your sinful impulses will move you towards. And so, either way, as men who love God, who want to fear God, who obey God all the days of our life, as women who want to honor God, it's important that we learn in our singleness to fight the good fight, and to fight the good fight, to honor God with our hands, our eyes, our hearts, our thoughts, to honor Him. And if you, by God's grace, if you can make progress towards honoring God in your heart sexually, with your eyes, with your hands, with your body, if you can honor God with your body sexually, you are building a foundation for your life that will do you much good.
And another word that would maybe be helpful to add to this is the word self-control.
Self-control, yeah.
Like mastering your own desires, your flesh. And obviously what we need is we ultimately need Christ and His Spirit to master our flesh. And so it puts us in a position where when we try to master our flesh apart from that, we realize, okay, I can't do that, I need Christ. But a virtue of being a man and a woman is to actually have self-control. It's not to just let your desires and your wants to rule you, control you, and you just pursue them to all end. It's actually to restrain them. And so what Christ calls us to is to a restraint, is to sexual purity at every moment of our life. And when you're not married, it means no sex in any form.
Totally.
And when you're married, it means sex with your spouse. And so
that's right.
So I think something that's been helpful for me to think about, and just with young men, is to think about calling young men to have self-control.
Amen.
To have mastery over your impulses and desires.
Yeah.
That's true with your money also. Those two things go together.
Sex and money.
Sex and money.
Yeah, there's a man in my life when I was 17, 18 years old, and he would always talk about just like the attractiveness of other women around his wife, and I'd be like, why do you do that? Like, why are you doing that? And his response would always be, well, just because you aren't hungry doesn't mean you can't look at the menu. But I'm like,
whoa.
That's not. But the thing is,
Try
it's
that
like,
one with your spouse.
But no, he said it in front of her.
Oh Lord.
And
Did
she
she
kept
shoot
saying
him?
that. And then, like, the thing is,
She could
though,
call me.
The thing is, though, like,
According to
you look
Dan.
at a menu long enough,
You're going to order something.
you're going to order something, right? You're going to get
That's
hungry.
right, that's
It's not good.
And so it's like
not good.
that's the way that you practice self-control if you're trying not to eat.
Yeah.
Is
Don't look at
don't
the
look at the
food.
menu. Don't look at the food. Like, don't put yourself in the situation that like, it
right.
ultimately
That's
led
right.
to like adultery and divorce. Like
Yeah.
that's because
Naturally.
eventually you end up getting hungry.
Yep.
And it's
Not good. It's not
things that
good.
you
Well, I
don't
have two
need.
questions. I think
okay.
we should try to address here on that front. I've had people ask me these questions a lot over the years, and I don't even know exactly what you guys are going to say. So this will be fun.
great. I don't know. We don't know what the questions are. These are
There's going to be radio silence.
this is
There may be a long pause while we pause the podcast to make sure we're on the same page. Okay. So here's the first question. We might not even get to the second question.
Jesus?
So
Is
what do
that
you
the
think
answer?
about? Okay, if this is true, marriage is important. People want to. It's good to get married. We should pursue sexual purity, all that stuff. Is it appropriate for a man or a woman to start dating if they're struggling with sexual purity?
Great question, Dan.
Pause. I'm just kidding.
Well, here would be a question I would ask to that person. What do you mean by struggling with sexual purity? So
Yes.
what does that look like?
Certainly.
Because I think there is a difference between I'm hopping up on Tinder or whatever app, sleeping around, versus there's, masturbation issues versus like pornography and the frequency and what it is. So I think there is some probably necessity of caveat or clarifying rather. What is that? So I don't know if you feel like
Okay, so let's just create a hypothetical person, Billy.
Mm-hmm.
So Billy's, I'm going to make up some numbers.
And then let's all think about our daughters potentially dating this.
Billy, so Billy, he's 25, multimillionaire. I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right.
Billy, he's 25 years old. He's been a Christian for 3 years, relatively faithful, involved in the life of the church, but he struggles periodically looking at pornography. He has accountability in his life, but he likes Cynthia or whatever. I mean, is it
The classic Billy and Cynthia scenario.
Are we saying
Classic.
So? Like, what do we say to Billy? Billy, does Billy have to get perfect mastery of his sexual purity down? Before he dates Cynthia, or how does this work?
That's a good question. Again, I guess I would piggyback off what Luke said. It's like, what do you mean by periodic? It's like he does have accountability. Is it like once a month Billy's, stumbling onto, into some pornography, or is it like once a quarter? How frequently, like, is it like, and how quick does he confess and all of that?
Let me ask this question.
Yeah.
In response to your question.
Yeah.
Play the Jesus card here.
Okay.
Great.
Why would we say anything but no?
Well, that's a good question. There's an answer to that question. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. We're going to run out of time. Let's see.
You burn with lust.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 8. I say to the unmarried and to the widows, it is good for them if they remain as I am. But if they do not have self-control, that's the word that you used earlier. That's good. But if they do not have self-control, they should marry.
You read that before.
But if they do not have self-control, they should marry, since it's better to marry than to burn with lust, burn with desire. So that'd be my answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like maybe in this Billy every once in a while situation, but if like Billy was like 3 times a week, like out of control, hiding a bunch of stuff and like only confessing to the stuff that he's caught in, it would probably be like, there's probably more you got to do to like get to a place to be ready to date.
So I would say I have a hard time giving a definitive answer to that question.
Yeah.
And I think some of that probably does really come down to situations. And I know you created a hypothetical, but it is a hypothetical, so that's part of the difficulty. But I do think there is 1 Corinthians 7 and what you just read. There's also the expectation and clear instruction to flee sexual immorality.
Amen.
And to not let it master you. And so I don't know how those two principles exactly, there's a tension point there.
Yes.
And so I think that has to be worked out carefully. And I do think that part of this is that so let's say, so clearly Billy is the man struggling with the pornography. And we assume Cynthia here is not struggling with any sexual sin. I'm going to go with that. But she needs to understand what's going on.
Certainly.
And so I think some of this is that, I don't know that the counsel would automatically be no, but the counsel would be, you need to understand what's happening so you can make an educated decision about what to do, because there is a risk.
Yeah. So you're saying, are you saying first date?
No.
Billy and Cynthia get together.
No.
Okay. What do you mean?
What do I mean by when you need to know? Well, I don't know when the exact time is, but if you're getting down the road and you're dating with the intent of really getting married, which I think is the only way you really should be dating. But if you're talking about, you got to crack that can open somewhere. And I think that is a conversation where you need to get some counsel and some wisdom about when to do that. because that woman needs to know what she's like stepping into.
Certainly.
Because more than likely, if that pornography is not dealt with prior to marriage, it's not going to stop once you get into marriage.
It's going to rear its head back in marriage.
So when whatever the scenario is, like your wife is pregnant, had a kid, and you're not having sex for a number of weeks, what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you go back to porn?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there really is it's hard to say absolutely not, but the tricky thing, like pornography is so hard because it's so accessible. So accessible. And
Certainly.
it comes in a variety of forms.
Certainly.
Obviously. So I would say it's not an automatic no, but there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and there needs to be accountability. And I would say that man needs to do whatever he can to be working hard to actually remove the sexual sin from his life.
Certainly. Certainly.
And so I do think it is a real challenge. And I think the difficulty is that most men, and even more and more women, have had exposure to pornography at such a young age.
Yes.
That the addiction is so, like, it's not to say it's not sin, but within sin there is addiction.
Certainly.
And there is a real addiction when it comes to sexual sin and pornography.
Certainly.
So I would say there's a lot of conversations that need to be had.
Certainly.
And I think there are a lot of examples where like people have entered into these situations and it's reared its head in their marriage, and it creates a lot of problems.
Certainly. Just to build on what you're saying, I agree with what you said. I think there are two characteristics I would be looking for in that guy.
Yep.
I would say, I want to know, is he in the fight?
Yep.
What's his attitude like towards it? Is he in the fight? Is he saying this needs to die in my life? This would be true for a woman too.
Certainly.
Men and women. But is he in the fight, number one? Is he open about it? Is he taking active steps to deal with it? And number two, I want to know the direction. Not perfection. Not has he perfected this, but I want to know the direction of his life. And that's what I would say, I think, to my daughter. I would say, Mila, tell me about this guy. Where's this guy at? Is he in the fight, or is he proud of it? Is he okay with it? Is he protecting his sexual impurity habits? Because if he is, that's not a very good thing to do.
Right.
It's not that does not bode well for the future. Yep. And so, regardless of where you're at, I think we want to be a church that pursues sexual purity before marriage and after. There ought not be a hint of sexual immorality among you. And we want to help each other and move that direction.
Amen.
That's right.